Okay, we are live. And welcome everybody. This is Kubernetes Open Source SIG API Machinery bi-weekly meeting. Today is April 1st of 2026. In the US is April Fool's Day, but I don't have any good joke or nothing prepared for today. I just have a lot of topics on the agenda that we want to discuss. And maybe with that, we get started. And I will do one more check before we jump through topics. Cheng Hao, are you in the call? No. And Polly, Patrick, you are also not yet in the call, right? So let's begin with the last one and then work backwards. Shuan, do you want to present your topic?
Yeah, so basically, what currently happens in whenever there is HCD corruption is that API server is not able to become ready because the list and watch part of watch cache just never completes. This does not allow any new API servers to come up. Old API servers don't update with newer mutations. Uh, this also creates a availability risk. If old API servers drop down, then anyone who is using those API servers is now without any connection. So we were just wondering if it would be a good idea to do something like a placeholder corrupted object. Add something like a placeholder corrupted object in watch cache, so that watch cache becomes ready. Uh, We are currently thinking that we would still send the storage errors or like whichever error is the most correct one uh, to the client. This would only be to make sure that the API server is able to come up. There is a cache which can be used for all requests which deal with non-corrupted objects. Um Yeah, so that's what we were proposing. We looked at a few things that could block us from bringing the API server up. One of them was Informer sync as part of the readyz checks. Um, the point of contention, right? We don't have an answer for that yet, but we were currently thinking of allowing the placeholder object in the Informer cache. Uh, we have identified some problems with that. For example, if one of the RBAC objects has a corruption uh, that might cause RBAC policy to be more restrictive, there might be some issues in admission controllers as well. So before going any further, we wanted to have upstream opinion of is this even a sane approach to follow? Do we need to put more efforts into this, or do we have any other approaches that come into mind which we should focus more on?
So I have a question. A lot of times when you wait for an informer to sync, you do that so that you start from a point of this was at one point in time a valid state on the server. Might not be valid anymore, but it was valid at a point in time. And when you do that, you sometimes, not always, build things like reverse indexes or do reverse lookups, where you do a lookup to say, I want all the things that match this field selector. Um, what so the current behavior prevents that from finding an invalid state. What would you expect to happen if you were to add this? Say for something that was looking at endpoints and trying to find pods that match based on label selector.
Uh, so currently, like we were trying to do some POCs. I was trying to do some POCs, but currently we were just adding an annotation to the object, like a simple object with a corruption annotation. So anything that would use any other annotation or spec would either like depending on which code path it is, it would either think that there are no things attached to the object or just skip it. For I think for endpoints, as you said, for endpoints it would just skip the pod as part of the endpoint. That's my understanding. But yeah, so
I also want to say something. We're adding a lot more enforcement on consistency, especially in controllers. I'm wondering if something like this, where we have some sort of like corrupted object, would cause certain things like how we're making controllers like wait for certain objects to like catch up in like the resource version, like catch up in the resource version, things like that. If we just allow a watch to say, hey, I'm healthy, but here's these corrupted objects that we don't really know what they are, could that just cause controllers to start like looping indefinitely and have anything happen there? I don't know if Jordan or David have any thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I'm really concerned with having controllers actuate and get in a state where they think something's different than it was and then do a write based on that and put something else in a bad state. I'm really worried about the downstream implications of allowing these types of objects in.
the so non-corrupted object, other resources effects. That's what you're talking about, right? Just
Yeah,
want to be
I
sure.
mean, we have seen corruption in the past where there was a mistake in a system and something in the watch stream got out of order or missed, and then controllers actuated on what they thought was reasonable state but wasn't, and then they wrote things which further, expanded the kind of the inconsistency of the corruption to other objects, and that's really hard to trace down.
Yeah, I guess the API server doesn't know why it can't decode. It might not be able to decode an object because of a bit flip in etcd, and no other API server could decode that object. Or it might not be able to decode because the local API server's like encryption configuration is wrong for some reason. And other API servers with correct configuration can decode. And so it's really hard for the local API server to know that ignoring the problem or sort of swapping in dummy data for an object it can't decode and then saying, yep, I'm healthy, bring me into the load balancer, route requests to me, is not making things worse for the cluster overall. So right now it says I'm not healthy. If you want to talk to me anyway, you can. Like, I won't reject requests, but I'm not going to say I'm healthy. And if you try to do list requests to me, I'm going to fail those list requests if there's data involved that I can't decode. The undecryptable objects feature fails those in a more useful way, I guess, so that an admin can go and at least try to delete, if that's what they want to do. They can delete the individual objects. But masking the fact that we can't actually decode the information, or swapping in like dummy data, or saying that it's healthy and should be brought into a load balancer when it actually isn't, none of those seem like good ideas to me.
Yes. And okay, but even if we for let's say for a thought process, we are able to differentiate specific HCD issues from other issues. I guess the other problems would still stay. But I was just wondering, even with corruption, the old informers will still, like old caches will also still exist with controllers and things like that, right? If mutations are happening, which can technically happen on other objects, non-corrupted objects, there is still a difference between the current state of the cluster and what controllers and all the others are thinking about the state of cluster, right?
Yes, but they won't proceed past that point. So like any controller that's not yet established, the first thing it does is try to list to get initial state, or list or get a watch stream of all existing objects to get initial state. And so it's not going to progress past the point when the undecodable objects or updates occurred. Like the watch cache and list requests won't progress past that point. So it's stuck, but it's also not like venturing into the future with like this mixed inconsistent state. So is it better to be stuck at that point, or proceed past that point and not be stuck but also not be consistent or accurate? Like that's really hard to answer generically. I'm sure you could find individual controllers that would prefer one side or the other, but for generic plumbing, I think defaulting to say we're not going to progress past the point where we can give you a consistent watch stream is the right choice.
Makes sense. So seems this might not be a good approach to follow. Just want to get an opinion. Do you guys have any other just like direction that we could follow? The base idea being that we don't want a single corruption to cause total availability loss, possibly total availability loss for the cluster. Uh, we were thinking of just skipping informer sync from readyz, but that also doesn't totally make sense. But yeah, just want to get some opinions here. Also, thanks for all the previous opinions.
If there are metrics that are surfacing decode error information, that might, and in your use case you want to tolerate that, that might be something to combine with the informer readyz. So if you're waiting on informer readyz and there are no decode error metrics, then you should probably keep waiting. If you see that it's not ready and there are decode error metrics for the resource that's not ready, then you might want to ignore readyz if that's what you want to do in your environment. So combining those two signals would maybe be what I would recommend if you were looking to tolerate that, but do it a little bit more in a more targeted way.
Or depending on bravery, you could do the list, get back the error that indicates which ones are corrupted, and automatically local to that server delete those items. That is a thing that could be built.
Maybe for some objects.
Ethically wrong, but it would go wrong in the same way that Jordan commented here. Like you could have an item that you have a problem local to the API server and you just nuked all the data because of that. And in that case, you almost certainly do not want to have it serving.
Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah, I would. So in conclusion, this approach is not something that seems to be correct. Even for the informer sync, skipping it might not be the best, because if we are just getting decode errors, it can still be a key that's forever not working. Then would bringing the API server up in that case be good? Yeah. Yeah, maybe it is not the approach. Yep. I guess, yeah, thanks for all the opinions. We would have to think of something else, it seems.
Shubham, can I ask you one last favor? Can you, in the meeting notes, summarize the outcome of the discussion, so for posterity?
Just here, right? After.
Yeah. After
okay.
like here, this kind of live discussion or something like that. Just a quick summary for the people that couldn't make it. Although it's recorded, but always helps. Thank you. And then I did ping Polly and Chen Hao, but I didn't get any response. I don't know if they joined. If they didn't, it looks like this one we can take a look. It's just asking, to see if somebody can review it, and I don't know what is the status of this. Did somebody review it? Okay, not yet.
See my name on there.
Yeah, you see, yeah, but person author was asking if you could, but I think it can be done by other people too. Doesn't have to be you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Is Richa on the call? I haven't seen her. Okay, let's assign this to me. Am I logged in this browser? I don't remember. Yes. Okay, let me assign this to me, and I will find somebody to take a look. I assume there is no urgency for this, right? Because we are past 1:36, and this is going to be in the future. Okay. And what about the other two? Polly, I think this is, I don't know if he had any questions.
I have a little bit of context on that one since Patrick assigned some of those to me.
Okay.
Basically, it's just I didn't review these ones since I don't have too much context on these parts of Client Go, but basically it's just plumbing the context support through into Client Go. So somebody with more context probably just needs to have help review. Dude.
Yeah, there was we added a job a while back for not making unintentional changes to the client Go Golang API. These both fail that check. Opinions on whether I haven't looked at exactly what it is in detail. Do we already know whether this is going to fall into the, oh, please don't change that?
Yeah, I think it did because the one which I was more familiar with, I think Joe and I reviewed, and I think it did even break a couple things that we were importing client Go with, I think. So this might have some of the same issues.
So it would be, so the knowledge of which of those functions really matter to you, I don't know. For my part, I'm completely fine with any and all breaks that happen here. Just pull the Band-Aid off and break it. But I suspect you'll want to be more circumspect about it. So if you could look and see what it does and then suggest an alternative if this is one that you really don't want to break.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we should do that.
But I
Could we
promise
move
you, I won't merge this without like someone I know. Jordan has been particularly concerned in the past. Jordan or Deputy can tell me, yeah, I'm okay with this one.
I can help hunt somebody down
Okay.
to figure out that. But yeah. Thanks for letting us look at it carefully first.
Yeah, there's one, the REST mapper and discovery one in particular, changed an interface, and I haven't dug to see whether it's entirely compatible.
Yeah, now we have the API diff. If you look down at the, you don't have to open it now, Fed, but down at the bottom where all the CI failures are.
Oh yeah, it says incompatible changes. I just don't. I just haven't like. Are those
Yeah,
ones that matter?
Not only does it say they're incompatible, if you click it, you can get the listing pretty quick, which sometimes is really noisy, but sometimes it's helpful. So okay. we'll go through it.
Okay. I feel that it would be a richer discussion if Polly was here. Should we move this to the next meeting?
I think that's only useful after there can be an assessment of like whether these are problematic ones, and then what an alternative option could be, or at least starting that brainstorm. Because otherwise, he's stuck with like, well, okay, what do I do?
Yeah, we're not looking for a Boolean yes/no decision. We're looking for a how do we make this work in the safest and least
I
painful way.
am of the opinion that context is pretty useful in most of the places where he's plumbed it down. I have not regretted. I have not regretted the giant incompatible change we made however many years ago, but I know other people have different views.
I regretted that. I was the one who did it and wrote the tool and got people with pitchforks chasing me.
Yeah, I love it. Although I think you might have approved it with one company and then dealt with the fallout with another. So world looks different. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
You can pull Antonio into that. I think he was trying to start like writing down some rationale. Like, how do we decide if a change is a thing that is okay or problematic, and like what makes it worth it? And if we're gonna do it, do we break an interface or do we add to an interface so someone on a current version could write a shim layer that adapts to both? Like, he was starting to think through some of that, so he would be good to pull into this as an example trial thing to look through.
Okay, and I see Polly on the document, but I don't think he has joined the call, right? Because I was looking at this one is merged, so he just scratched this one. So, okay, I will bring this to Antonio's attention too, and then maybe we get some passes as David was requesting before we can discuss this again. This one is closer to also you, Jordan, and David for SIG, I guess.
Oh, there was one for SIG off as well. I didn't notice that.
I'll look at that. If it's like auth plugin stuff, that's generally pretty implementation internal. I'm imagining we could do that without worrying about the breakage. It's more about like just review time on the correctness.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, are you already discussing the?
Oh yeah, we were waiting for you. We were talking about you without you here.
I'm sorry. I don't have your meeting in my calendar. And usually it's this time of the day where I have choir rehearsals, except that we have vacations in Germany right now, Easter vacations. So it's no
we
choir.
We're 15 seconds away of closing the meeting. So
yeah, I'm sorry. I just saw the update. I saw Jordan's update of the doc when I went through my emails. So okay, you started talking about this. Now I need to page in why I put that onto the agenda. I think it was because of the reviews that happened with Margie Soltisch on those, because ultimately it will need SIG approval. And I think it's ready. I just want to highlight where this is. This is basically concluding it for client Go, except for the auth part, and I think I just want to postpone that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Did you have any questions? Let me put it this way.
I think before you joined, what we were suggesting is just making sure somebody reviewed it with a focus on making sure we're okay with the API diff changes, and we understand that, and we're good with how that's
for this one in particular. It's worth calling out that the initial commits try very hard to not change the Go APIs. So better look at the individual commits list. There are those that introduce new interfaces, and then there's a conversion helper functions, and I see that I need to clean it up. The work in progress part definitely doesn't belong here. The problem with that approach is that when I started using this new functionality, I found that in many cases, consumers call client Go discovery or the client interface method called discovery, which returns the old interface without the new methods. And then all callers at some point need to convert to the new interfaces, which is not too onerous, but it's non-obvious. It basically hides the existence of the new with context methods from all users that currently call client Go. They don't even see that there is something new that they should be perhaps using. So the last commit in the current PR actually changes the return type of that discovery function. But it is a breaking API change. So if you just click on it for a second, the discovery function actually doesn't. Why does it not return discovery with context? I think that. Oh, well, okay. It looks like I need to look at that PR again myself. Perhaps I haven't pushed that additional commit yet. So this is the what is it? What is the actual difference? I'm not seeing it.
The plural.
Discovery interfaces. No. This is sorry. Yes, it's subtle. So discovery interface is the old interface. Mm-hmm. It has the methods without context. Yep. Discovery interfaces is the one that combines the two interfaces, the old and the new one. So someone getting that returned can call the with context methods directly.
Yeah, so it's a union.
It's a union of two interfaces. The old one, discovery interface, and discovery interface with context. It must be somewhere in the PR, in the commit, and it's probably hidden. No, there it is. You already found it.
Yeah. So like, I think that takes some of the lessons we learned from the first time we threaded context, where it was a single big bang moment and made it impossible to have a code base that pulled two pieces, some of which we're still using without context and some of which we're still using with. Letting you call both certainly makes it an easier transition.
Yeah.
Whether we would ever remove the non-context ones, like
well, probably not, because
probably not. But even allowing the transition to happen over, like, not in a single PR, but over a release or two or three, or however long we left both in place, that would certainly make it an easier transition.
Yeah. So the goal definitely was to perhaps not to just basically offer both. And if we convert the code bases that we care about, where we want the context to be used, and then just leave the rest to the community, whether they want to improve their code base by threading through context or not.
Yeah, Mache had left one comment about like agreement about not marking the context-free ones as deprecated. If there's actually a reason to switch to the context ones, I am okay with marking the non-context ones as deprecated. So
I wouldn't. I personally, I've become more conservative, seeing the confusion that people run into when they see something as deprecated. I prefer to not mark it like that, personally. But
if we know that not calling the context ones means people are losing any log threading and losing any cancellation propagation, then I think that's a reasonable case for marking the context-free ones deprecated. And especially if we're planning to drop the context-free ones. I don't know if we should or not, but if we were going to, we should definitely mark them as deprecated.
Yeah. My criteria for deprecated at this point, and I promised to write up a document for SIG architecture about Go API maintenance. My criteria for deprecation is we definitely plan to remove something at some point and we want people to take action. If we don't have such pretty strong arguments, I wouldn't use deprecation. It's a bit unfortunate that we don't have something like a weak deprecation marker, something where it says you may want to change something here because it's better for you, but you are free to continue using the legacy ones of existing methods because we're not taking it away. We don't have that intermediate thing that gets picked up by tooling. We only have deprecated, and it gets interpreted the worst way, which basically means consumers assume that they have to take action.
I think, well, I'd say it's a good topic for SIG-Arch. I am of the opinion that if we have a current known better alternative, then marking something as deprecated, even if we'll never remove it, is valid. I think back to like a lot of languages where stuff gets deprecated and it will just never go away, and they do that for compatibility.
So as a counter to that,
I did have deprecated.
Moved some utility methods from like IOUtil into the OS package, and they marked the IOUtil one as deprecated because like the canonical version was the OS package. And that instantly spit out a bunch of warnings, and we got people like opening tons of just noise PRs, like stop using deprecated functions. Like it doesn't matter. So I think our bar should be, would we be happy with dozens of PRs from the internet sweeping the code base to remove calls and switch them over? If we would be happy because there's actually a benefit to the switch, maybe that's a good reason to mark it deprecated. If we would be unhappy and say, this is noise, please stop, then we should not mark it deprecated.
I agree with John. I did have deprecated in this PR that we are looking at initially, and then Soltich convinced me to take it out. But yeah, we don't have a good policy. This is a separate discussion. Right now, the focus is to make it as less disruptive as possible. And coming back to this discovery interfaces thing that we look at here, this is a breaking API change. It might be a smaller one, but it changes the client Go interface. And in this PR, this last commit, actually, I did have to modify some of our mock code for the client Go interface to accommodate for that change. It's the smallest change, but it is a Go API change.
Yeah, it's definitely breaking, like in the strict sense. I think the difference between this and what we've done in the past is it's possible to shim this because it's additive. So, like, possible to shim a custom implementation. And if you don't have a custom implementation, then all your existing code still works. All the existing calls still work. That, like, my concern was making it easy, possible, and reasonable to like adopt the library update in non-disruptive ways or in ways that you can like coexist across a boundary with a custom implementation. And I think this does that.
Maciej, you have hand.
Yeah, there's one other concern that I had when I was looking through Patrick's PR. I was specifically targeting testing. Because on one hand, we have all the currently existing code that has whatever the current test coverage is. The new methods, in the majority of the cases, they don't. And theoretically, in most of them, we're basically at the end of the day are crossing the paths. But the entry points are 2 for a lot of them.
Are we not just delegating the old to the new?
That's what I'm saying. So, but underneath the code is tested properly, but the entry points for both are different because one is with the context and one is without. If I remember correctly, because I looked on the PR like 3 weeks ago, definitely before KubeCon, 2 weeks, I was close.
Margie is right. We don't have code coverage for the with context methods. But these are typically one-liners, or they get called by the older method. So I think it's okay-ish. Yeah. And
if one is delegating to the other, then both are exercised. And if we prefer the context one, then we will naturally switch to exercising that one.
Yeah, but typically the traditional one calls the with context version by passing the context background. So by keeping the tests as they are, we actually go through both methods. If we update the unit tests, we don't cover the traditional methods.
I guess a one-liner delegation with context to do or context background, I don't see the value of unit testing.
Yeah, me neither. No, it's... So I think the action item for the meeting was, well, basically bring it in front of a group, perhaps discuss a few things, and I think we did that, and then get an assignee that isn't Soltish, so that we can get this moving again when the code form happens. And my AR for this discovery PR is to clean up the commit history, because I missed, I think, one commit that probably just needs to be squashed appropriately. Yeah, no volunteers. I hear you are all very excited about this.
Before you joined, Patrick, we had been talking about having somebody on the Google side look at this as well.
Okay.
Jake, great job.
Yeah.
Appreciate your review too. So we're going to try and find somebody to do that.
That's good. Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to get it moving again. Soltish has been very helpful. Thanks a lot, and it definitely moved the thing closer to being ready. Definitely appreciated.
Okay, very good. I think we were able to discuss this one too. So thank you, Patrick, for joining, and everybody for the discussion. I think that's the agenda for today. So unless there is anything urgent that people want to bring up in the last minute, we can call it enough for today. We good? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everybody. I will upload the recording later and notify in the channel. Good to see you. Have a good rest of the week.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.